Hello everybody and welcome back to the Kingdom Hearts HD Dream Drop Distance playthrough. It is time to begin a massive string of boss fights. Let's go!
Hey. Sora, don't! You've got to wake up! Sora! Are you what's trapping him in that nightmare? Cause if you are, I'm what nightmares fear.
So here we go. It is time for us to face off against the anti-Black Coat Nightmare, which is easily one of the most ridiculous boss titles I have ever seen in the entirety of the Kingdom Hearts franchise. It's ridiculous. That said, this is a really challenging fight, actually. It's really frantic, really hectic. As a fact, you kind of don't want to die at any point if you can help it, because otherwise you'll end up in a situation like I am sort of here, where it's just like, I desperately need to heal, but I hadn't got my Kiraga up to full spec yet, because I needs to recharge and all that jazz. The fight is particularly challenging, because it has a like a life-stealing move. I don't know if it necessarily heals itself from it. But yeah, so Shadow Steel basically knocks you upwards and depletes your HP to 1. And so basically, while you don't need like once more or second chance for this fight, it can be really helpful, because obviously he does have a collection of moves which are really quite deadly. And well, yeah, this one in particular. And then it's all a case of dodging the hell out of the way so that he can't take you down. It's a really frantic fight, but I will say, all that said, it is quite an enjoyable fight. It has got a great piece of music, which is, I believe, called The Dread of Night. There's a couple of amazing final boss themes, or kind of just general boss themes, throughout this final trek of Dream Drop Distance. And yeah, Dread of Night is particularly awesome, but you will spend a lot of time getting flung up into the air by that Shadow Steel move, which is it's really annoying. But as long as you use things like Balloon Gur, Balloon Ra, etc., you should be pretty much sorted in terms of getting through this, because keeping your distance and kind of doing a sort of hit and run strategy is pretty much your best bet for making it through this relatively simply. Don't bother using your link attacks, because they're not going to get you anywhere, because he just teleports far too much for that to be effective. So Balloon Gur, Balloon Ra, Spark Raid, Triple Plasma, Viraga, all that sort of good stuff, really useful in this fight. But also be very prepared, because what you basically end up with at this moment in time is Riku has like 3 boss fights on the trot, which is great and fun, but oh boy, it's not an easy run. I will say, I do think that a lot of these fights toward the end of Dream Drop Distance are perhaps a little overly challenging. Like, I don't think that they are perhaps as well balanced as they perhaps should be, because a lot of the bosses are just very aggressive in their attacks, and so it's very easy to get comboed and then, you know, killed. But it's fine, because we beat the anti-Black Coat Nightmare, and it is time to see whether we've managed to rescue Sora or not. I mean, fingers crossed, it'd be nice if we could, eh?
Don't chase the dreams. They'll lead you nowhere. Just to an abyss you'll never be able to wake up from. What? What's going on in Sora's world? Why won't he open his eyes? Is he still in the nightmare?
That is right.
Huh? Ansem!
Sora can no longer wake up. No matter how many nightmares you consume, you cannot wake someone who has fallen into the chasm of dreams.
What?
Dreams hold our memories. Sleep holds our dreams. And darkness, it holds our sleep. Sora's heart belongs to the darkness now.
Sora would never give in to the darkness!
But you feel it, don't you? This world, the nightmare, the abyss. Why haven't you returned to the reality whence you came?
No. This is a...
Dream of a dream. A twofold nightmare. This whole journey, you have been inside Sora's dreams. And now darkness within darkness awaits you.
What? No! I can't get loose!
So yes, you may have noticed a certain symbol on Riku's back, which explained all of this right from the off, and nobody actually realised it until it happened, but yes.
When you struck out from that tiny
Ansem is going to explain all of it.
Dressed in a robe. Immediately you knew something was wrong. So without even knowing it, you dove into Sora's dream. And you became exactly what that sigil on your back represents. A dream eater to protect Sora from nightmares.
Me? I'm a dream eater?
Correct. But you failed to protect him. After all your efforts to command the darkness and protect those you cherish, it is a shame you locked that power away in the end.
Except, it's not over. I can still save Sora.
So you understand what to do. Set the darkness in you free, and you can rescue your friend.
Ansem. Or... Xehanort. You used to be a Keyblade wielder. But darkness stole your heart. And the Keyblade with it. Don't you see? That's half the reason I'm even on this journey. After allowing darkness into my heart, am I still fit to wield the Keyblade? Even after locking you away, here you are, haunting me again. So I get it now. There's no point in trying to hold the darkness back.
At last, you see clearly.
You know, when I look at you, there's this memory that flashes back. A secret I said I'd keep when I was little. The main reason I kept dreaming about seeing the outside world was because of him. My journey begins here. And now, I'm going back to the real world. And then to Sora's side.
That is your answer?
Yes. I know the way. Consume the darkness. Return it to light.
You can try.
And here we go. It is time to take on Ansem, the Seeker of Darkness, in what at present anyway is basically just a replication of pretty much every other time that we have fought him. We have the rather stunning piece of music which is called L'Eminenza Oscura, which is the Dark Eminence once you translated it from Latin, and it's really cool. Part of me, I don't know, is how shall I put it? I do question the decision to make it so that Riku's whole thing is, no, it's not about control the darkness within me and walking the road to light anymore, it's consume the darkness, destroy it. Personally, I'm not sure whether I quite agree with that shift. If only because I think that one of the things that always made Riku most interesting as a character is because of that whole duality, that grey area, and ultimately what this fight entails for Riku is stamping out that darkness once and for all. And while obviously it's powerful, very much a kind of character development moment for Riku, I'm not entirely convinced that it was the most interesting way that they could have gone with the character and the narrative, because Riku's always been more interesting than Sora, primarily because he gave into the darkness and then has been trying to atone for it ever since. And being able to say that darkness is part of me was always a quite powerful, interesting motivator for Riku. And so the decision to, just completely destroy it all, I suppose sort of makes sense in the fact that Riku's going, okay, no, this is just ridiculous, stop it right now. If you're not going to stop it, then I'm just going to destroy you completely. That makes sense. But I do wish that was maybe a little bit more nuance to the whole thing. But that is Ansem Secret of Darkness down, although he does have a second phase, which is infinitely more frustrating.
Ansem! You're part of my heart now! Part of the light!
Ever the fool boy, and forever a pawn of the darkness!
And here we go, it is time for Phase 2, the fight against Ansem with L'Eminenza Oscura 2, which is once again the Dark Eminence, it's just part 1 and part 2. Now, this fight, I don't remember it being quite as frustrating as I found it here when I played it on the 3DS originally, but this was easily my least favourite fight in the game. It's basically because it's very difficult to get out of the way of a lot of these attacks. Like, you would think you could try flow motion, you would think that you could try dodging out the way of things. Blocking can help with certain attacks, but then that one in particular, what you've sort of got to do is you've got to double flight jump over in front of them. And then you get this bit, which you've got these two balls which he's going to fire at you. The main trick is that you've got to try and get closer, but you want to basically flow motion up at the top here, but you can't always flow motion exactly as you would like to. So it's basically a case of just constantly dodging out the way, because if you get too close to them, then they're going to suck you in and hurt you, which you don't want to happen. There are certain attacks that you can block, but not all of them, and just in general, it's a really frustrating fight in the grand scheme of things. It gets even worse when you end up dying in one of the runs of the fight, because then immediately your command deck is substantially smaller because it's got to recharge right at the start of the fight. And that's just really, really infuriating to happen every single time you fail. Thankfully, obviously, there is a checkpoint at the start of the fight, but it is that whole difficulty of when you have to restart the fight and don't have any of your commands at play right at the beginning. So if you happen to get hit within the first kind of like 5 seconds of the fight, you've got to try and last at least another kind of 6 or 7 or whatever until your curative magic has restored. I mean, one of the ways of getting around that is by using potions instead of cures, but considering the limited nature of cures and, well, limited nature of potions and stuff, it's not a tactic that I'm sure that many people would entirely recommend. And as you can see, like, you spend a lot of your time at this ridiculously low level of health, and it just gets really, really infuriating. It's even worse because there's a point partway after around, it's roughly halfway when he can launch it, but there's a particular move which is really, really irritating. And it's this one, because he just sort of does all these random things out of the area, and you've got to basically try and dodge them, but there's no real area to tell where they're going to fly up. And then he goes into this, which is just ludicrous, because how on earth are you meant to dodge some of that? And I think that's what made this a lot more infuriating to me when I was playing it, because it was just like, I don't know what the game is quite expecting me to do. Like, every other fight in the game is much more reasonable in even the more challenging ones. I mean, Anti-Black Cone Nightmare is a nightmare to face down, but in general it is a lot more bearable, because you can tell what you need to do to avoid the attacks. And for basically all of the fights from this point onwards, you can tell what you're supposed to do to avoid the attacks, at least. Not necessarily always in terms of how you cause damage. There's one which is debatable in terms of whether it's a decent example of telling you how you're supposed to be able to dodge an attack, but I'll get to that when I get to that. Just suffice to say, I did have an awful time with this boss fight when I was recording, and it has become my least favourite fight in the game, which is a shame, because it's really cool and really quite epic and climactic. It's just this, yeah, it was just such a frustrating fight to record that I just couldn't. It just drove me up the dark wall, like these ones, and I just wanted it to be over. It was infuriating. But with this, that is Ansem Seeker of Darkness defeated. And that's basically Riku's side of the world that never was done. So, all that's left is to see exactly what happens to him following all this.
This place. Did I finally make it out of the dream? Sora and I have been split up since the start of our journey. Because Ansem... No. Because Xehanort planned it. And that means... we're a long way off course from the Mark of Mastery exam Yen Sid gave us. Alright. Sora's gotta be here. Somewhere.
So yes, here we are in the real world that never was. There's very little that you can actually do here. It's basically just you've got this portal thing which will take you back into the dream world. You've got a Moogle shop if you want to buy anything. You've got a save point. And yes, this is your point of no return. Well, ish, for Riku, because in order to... well, if you run forward, you will activate a forced drop. But, that's basically if you, it happens anyway, but you need to complete Sora's kind of main portion in order to be able to continue. So even though you'll go forward, initiate that forced drop, you'll still end up back in this area. So it is your point of no return save point, but it's not quite the point of no return just yet. So you could return to the world map via that if you wanted to, but obviously we don't need to. There's nothing else here for us to collect, so what we need to do is triple save check and run forward.
So sleepy.